As a kid, I was obsessed with magic eye pictures. I just look at them all the time, and I became really good at seeing the 3D image quickly. In other words, through practice, I gained extra voluntary control over the movement of my eyes, and I retain that ability to this day, despite the fact that I don't really look at magic eye pictures much anymore. I mean, literally one a day, max. And it's this extra voluntary control that means I'm good at going cross-eyed, and it means that I can move one eye independently of the other, which is what I'm going to show you how to do in this video, just in a few seconds actually. But also, as I was researching the video, I discovered all these amazing things about the way our eyes move. It's really fascinating stuff. So I'm going to talk about that as well. Stick around for it. But first of all, here is how you move one eye independently of the other. The first thing you need to be able to do is go cross-eyed. And I think that's something that most people can do probably, or at least to some degree. But often what people do when they go cross-eyed is they go like this, they look down. And there's a good reason for that. It makes it easier because you've got this stimulus here. You've got something for your eyes to converge on, your nose. But it's better if you can go cross-eyed whilst looking straight ahead, like that. And you can practice that, you can gain that ability if you put your finger right in front of your face like that, so you're going cross-eyed. When you remove your finger, your eyes will suddenly converge on something in the distance, in my case, the camera that I'm filming with. What you want to try and do is when you remove your finger, just try and slow that conversion. So when you remove your finger, you'll see a double image, and that double image will snap into a single image. Try and slow that down so the two images come together more slowly. Eventually, you'll be able to get those two images to stop so they don't snap together. And then with a bit more practice, you'll be able to pull them back again and separate them. So practice that for a bit so that you can go cross-eyed whilst looking straight ahead. The next step for moving one eye on its own is really easy. So when you go cross-eyed like that, you see double. One image drifts to the left, the other image drifts to the right. And all you have to do is decide to yourself, I am going to follow one of those images. I'm not going to have one drift to the left, one drift to the right. I'm just going to track one of them as it moves. And it's really not hard. It's not like, you know, entering the heart of stone for Rothfuss fans. It's like, you just think it and it happens. So that's how you do it. I'm genuinely interested to know if those instructions are helpful. So let me know in the comments if you've been able to move one eye on its own. It might take a bit of practice, so come back and leave a comment if that's you. So let's talk about how eyes move. It's really interesting. There's the mechanics of it, and then there's the neurology of it, like what's going on inside your brain. So the mechanics first is really cool. Each eyeball has 6 muscles attached to it, and they kind of splay out as they reach the eyeball, so they sort of look like hands. I've built a model of how it looks. So here we go. Shut up, it's a good model. So think about this, every time your eyes move, it's like little hands pulling on your eyeballs inside your skull. It's a nice thought, isn't it? I'm only showing 4 of the muscles on here. These are the muscles that pull the eyeballs this way and this way. The other 2 cause your eyeball to move in this twisting motion. It's not something you do very much. It's very subtle, but it is very important. What's really interesting is these modes of eye movement that you have. There are 4 of them, 4 main ones. They are saccades, they are smooth pursuit, vestibulo-ocular, and vergence. And I want to talk about all of them because they're all interesting. Actually, we've already talked about vergence. That's the movement that your eyes make to converge on near and distant objects, the one that you can gain voluntary control of to go cross-eyed. So saccades, let's look at saccades. So a saccade is the basic eye movement. So if you're looking at one thing and you decide that you're going to look at something else, your eye will saccade from one to the other. It's a rapid movement from one place to the next. And okay, 2 interesting things about saccades. The first is that during a saccade, you are blind. So like imagine if you saw what was happening during a saccade, it would just be a blur, it'd be a sickening motion blur. So instead, the communication pathway between your eyes and your brain is shut down. Like a little bit of information gets through, but not much. You're essentially blind during that movement. It's like tens of milliseconds, but you don't see anything during that period. What's interesting is your brain is hiding the saccade, but it's also hiding the fact that it's hiding it. Like, surely if no information is getting from your eyes to your brain, you would see just black during a saccade. You'd kind of have a mini blackout every time your eyes did that sudden movement, but you don't. Instead, your brain just kind of fudges it. It fudges your perception of time, and it just kind of tries to fill in the gaps for you so that you don't notice the blackout. And you can experience this. Look in a mirror and look at your left eye, then look at your right eye, then back to your left. Keep going back and forth between your eyes. And obviously your eyes are moving because you're moving from one to the other, but you will never see your eyes move in the mirror because of saccadic masking. That moment of movement masks the actual movement in the mirror. If you want to see your eyes move when you dart from one to the other, try the experiment again, but using the front-facing camera of your smartphone. There's a slight delay between what the camera sees and what's displayed on the screen, so your eyes will saccade and then you will see it on the screen. The second interesting thing about saccades is that they're described as ballistic. So the way the eyeball moves, it's more like a bullet and less like a guided missile. What that means is once the eyeball has started to move, its trajectory cannot be updated with new information. What that means is if I show you a dot on this side of the screen and then I move the dot over to here, your eye will saccade to the new location. But if I move the dot again while your eyeball is still moving, it will continue to move until it reaches that spot where the dot was. It's only once it gets there that your brain can calculate a new saccade to try and catch up to the new location of the dot. So if I move dots around on the screen like once every 100 milliseconds or so, then you won't get to see any of these dots directly. They'll all be in the periphery of your vision. So that's saccades, but what about smooth pursuit? Well, it's how it sounds really. Like if you try and track my finger as it moves on the screen, your eyes will smoothly pursue my finger in your field of view. And what's really interesting about smooth pursuit is that it's completely involuntary. Like you cannot voluntarily move your eyes smoothly. Like if I ask you to move your eyes from this finger to this finger, you won't be able to do it slowly and smoothly. It will always be a sudden saccade from this finger to this finger, or a series of short saccades that gets you from one place to the other. The final type of movement is the vestibulo-ocular movement, and this is the movement that tries to compensate for the movement of your head and body. Like if I go like this, I'm moving my head around, but I'm able to keep my eyes fixated on the lens of the camera. And you might think that that's just another example of smooth pursuit, like everything in my field of vision is moving around like this, and so my eyes are just pursuing smoothly one point in that moving image. But it's not, they're separate systems, and you can prove it. So what you can do is if you close your eyes, do this now, close your eyes and rest your fingers just lightly on your eyelids, and then slowly turn around like this. And when you do that, you will feel your eyeballs moving underneath your fingers. So humans stabilize their field of view against head movement using muscles in their eyes, but birds do it differently. They use muscles in their necks, and that's what this looks like thanks to Peter McIntosh. This relationship between voluntary and involuntary motion is really interesting, like what's happening inside the brain. And it's not just to do with your eyes, like any kind of motion that is voluntary or involuntary. Take breathing, for example. So breathing is voluntary. You can choose to breathe. You can choose to not breathe. You can hold your breath. Or you don't have to think about it at all and you'll just breathe. And you basically have a junction in the brain. So you've got neurons going to the set of muscles that make you breathe, and coming into that junction you've got the involuntary neurons. So you've got neurons coming from your kind of ancient lizard brain, if you like, and you've got neurons coming from the voluntary part of your brain, and they can override each other and things like that. So generally speaking, the voluntary neurons can override the involuntary neurons, which is why you can hold your breath. But there's some really cool chemistry that goes on around these junctions. Breathing's a great example. Basically, if there's a drop in oxygen in the brain, then the involuntary neurons can override the voluntary neurons at that junction, and you suddenly can't hold your breath anymore. You're forced to breathe. I want to finish this video with a story about a professor of neurobiology, Susan R. Barry. And she was born with cross eyes, so she was stereo blind, which means that she doesn't perceive depth in the same way that we do. She doesn't have stereo depth perception. Like if she goes to see a 3D movie, it doesn't work, for example. Her eyes don't converge on objects in the same way that most people's do. And the received wisdom, the wisdom that she was teaching in her classes, is that if you don't correct that within the first year, then that's it. You'll be like that for the rest of your life. But then she consulted a developmental behavioral optometrist, and she showed her how to take voluntary control of that vergence reflex that we were talking about. And she managed to do something that most scientists thought were impossible. She gained stereo depth perception for the first time, and she writes about the experience really eloquently. So I'm going to read this out, but there's a link to the article in the description, and you can jump off and read her other writings from there as well. She says, "My new view of the world was magical, enchanting, and beyond anything I could have imagined. Tree branches loomed out toward me or grew upward, enclosing and capturing palpable volumes of space that I had never seen before." This video was made possible by Brilliant.org. If you don't know what that is yet, it's a website full of really fun puzzles and problems that help you to think like a scientist and think like a mathematician. I'm really grateful that they continue to sponsor this channel because I think it's a really good match. Like, the way they think about education really clicks with what I'm thinking about in terms of, you know, how people learn. So I stumbled across their 8 principles recently. They've laid them all out, and I want to talk about one in particular, which says that great science and maths education should allow for failure. And I really believe that. I think that if you want to teach someone to love learning, you need to teach them to be comfortable with failure, to not fear failure, because it's such an important part of the process. And it's interesting to see how Brilliant have implemented that principle on the website. Like, if you get a question wrong, the language is really positive, and the interface kind of nudges you towards a discussion of the solution where you can engage with other members of the community to talk about how they reached the right answer. It's really good. Like, I feel like school should be like that, you know? So anyway, check it out for free by clicking on the link in the description today, and as a bonus, the first 76 people to use that special link will get 20% off annual premium membership should they choose to upgrade. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.